Here's an example that has asked me to solve a quadratic equation. One method of solving quadratic equations is by factoring. To do this, I need to first make sure that I have 0 on one side, which in this situation I do. Then I need to factor the non-zero side. In this example, we see that we have two terms on the left-hand side, and 4 is a common factor for these two terms. So what I can do is I can factor out a 4. Doing that, that would leave me with x squared minus 11. Then I would still have the equal 0. Now, anytime you factor out a constant, pay attention to if there's a variable with it or not. In other words, the only thing that factored out was the 4. I did not have x's in common above. If this is simply a constant, then would you agree that it would not make sense to set that constant equal to 0? So if that's the case, you can ignore the constant that you factored out. Now, you want to set this factor equal to 0. Notice that x squared minus 11 doesn't factor further. So I'd want to set that factor equal to 0. Now, if we have an equation like this where you have a single squared term and then a constant, you need to move the constant to the right-hand side. So we would have x squared equals 11. The x has a square on it, and we'd like to eliminate that square. We can do so by taking the square root of both sides. Now, when you take the square root of both sides, you must put a plus and minus on the right-hand side, in front of the right-hand side answer. The reason for that is I'm looking for a number that squares to 11. There will always be a positive and a negative solution to a situation like that. On the left-hand side, the square root and the square cancel, so that would leave me with x. And then on the right-hand side, I would have plus and minus square root of 11. Notice that 11 is a prime number and also not a perfect square, and so that particular root is simplified. Online, the way that you would need to enter your answer, they would have an x equals already, and then in the box that they've provided, you would want to type in square root of 11, comma, negative square root of 11.